Hello and welcome to Blockchain Gaming World, episode 188. I'm your host, John Jordan. Don't forget to check out my daily email about blockchain games. It's very good. You can find that at gamestx.substack.com. In today's episode, I'm talking to Sebastian Bourget, the COO of the Sandbox. Good to have Sebastian back. Had him on about 6 months ago. But in this conversation, we sort of get into the weeds a little bit of what's going on with the Sandbox. I've been a little bit critical of the length of time it's taking them. So we talk about the roadmap in terms of how the Sandbox had 4 alpha events last year, how it will have 4 events this year. Hopefully some of those will be beta events, and how it really expects to go live, which is not really about pressing the button and going live. It's more about these iterative events where you have these big brands making their experiences available in the Sandbox and sort of rolling those iterative events up. But also there are permanent experiences now. So some of the UGC stuff is now permanent. So to some degree, the Sandbox is actually permanently live. So talk a bit about that and also getting some detail about what's going on with the mobile version of the Sandbox. So that was planned for 2024. Didn't happen. Sebastian explains why it didn't happen, and also gives some idea about sort of a change in strategy there. So a lot of stuff about what's going to happen for the Sandbox in 2025. I found it quite encouraging as someone who's followed the Sandbox for a long time. There are some other sort of news coming that we can't cover yet, but there is some exciting stuff happening for the Sandbox in 2025. So I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Don't forget to subscribe. Every episode we are talking to people who are building out this new way of playing games. Got some good episodes lined up already in 2025, so don't miss out. Do subscribe, and on with the show. Hello everyone, and welcome to the show. Very pleased I have Sebastian Bourget from the Sandbox. How's it going, Sebastian?
All great. Happy New Year, everyone.
It is that time. Happy New Year. Yeah. And we are going to, in keeping with the timing of the year, we're going to talk a little bit. We're going to start off talking a little bit about the Sandbox, what it was doing in 2024, particularly the Alpha 4 campaign, which you finished. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about 2025, as much as you can talk about some of those things. Obviously, a lot to be announced, and maybe some things not to be announced on the podcast today. Generally, Alpha 4, obviously the 4th Alpha you've done, it's run for about 2 months, didn't it? It was a pretty big sort of a session. Lots of different sort of experiences being rolled into it. Was it like 51 million sand tokens given away? So that's pretty substantial amount of sort of incentivization. So from your point of view, how did that go? Were you sort of happy with it? What did you learn from it? Give us insight.
The end of 2024 has been very exciting, and it's setting like 2025 on the same track. Like we've seen. Like the general crypto market got exciting again with that Bitcoin reaching the 100K. And on the other side, like we've definitely proven that the metaverse is far from dead, is kicking and alive, boasting with a lot of players. So the Alpha Season 4 has been running for 10 weeks long from mid-October to mid-December. We have had 100 experiences featured, including 40 major brands and 60 of the best content made by the creators. And over 580,000 unique players played through across those 10 weeks. They actively spent time, over 2 hours on average per player. They completed quests, they engaged in blockchain transaction, claiming NFTs. So I think we had something close to over 1.2 million blockchain transactions. We had 2.6 million NFTs sold or distributed as rewards. 330,000 unique NFTs sold, which is quite exciting, I think, like proving as well like NFTs with true utility, there is demand for it. The NFT market in general is far from dead. Like we've also seen demand for virtual lands and rise again, and the price of the Sand token has been rising recently, following like Bitcoin curve, which also like brought a lot of positive sentiment again from our existing community of creators. And in general, people see that no matter the market, in 2024 we've kept building, we've kept like launching major product update of our creator tool suites. We've kept announcing major brands and partners such as Terminator, Attack on Titan, and many more. And we've kept like engaging and bringing players and audience. And season 4 not only had like that amazing amount of players, but that was the highest number of unique players we ever had in a season or an event before. So quite exciting again. And that definitely leads us to our like 2025 and what are we planning to do this year? I guess like in a nutshell, the idea is like, why don't we do even better what we're already great at doing? And so like, without any surprise, I think like the model of the season 4 and model of seasons in general with live ops, regular event where we bring all those top-notch brands and experiences and rewards is driving audience and engagement. So we'll have 4 seasons next year. Season 5 is already in production. We'll bring very exciting top brands that haven't yet been announced, and new gameplay feature, of course, based on like another major update of our game maker and game clients that adds like fun in multiplayer, new abilities for your avatars. So no spoiler yet, but stay tuned. This quarter again will be exciting, and expect 1 major season per quarter, essentially. The game maker.
Just interrupt
yeah,
you
go
there.
ahead.
So talk us through about the idea of having seasons. What? Because obviously one of the issues is, I mean, one of the sort of advantages is, I guess, is that you sort of you take demand and you say, everyone who wants to play the sandbox, you have whatever you have to, 10 weeks to play. This is, you sort of set it up as a big sort of marketing. This is when it's starting. This is when it's ending. Everyone pile in there. So you're sort of forcing everyone into that opportunity. Obviously, though, one of the issues with it not being sort of after the end of the season, you sort of shut those things down. So you sort of have push everyone in. Everyone has a great time, and then you sort of like shut the doors, and then you have to sort of go through another cycle. So there's sort of strengths and weaknesses to that. And one of the weaknesses of having these seasons is you don't have the persistence of keeping people just going, the sandbox is now, you can just go in the sandbox at any time. So do you think that's a weakness, or do you think the strength of the time-based season is strong enough to sort of overcome that?
That's a very fair point, and I guess like the big difference between now and a year ago is indeed like Sandbox didn't have much to do in between those seasons, but a year later, Sandbox, we opened the publishing program for all creators, so any landowner could open the experience, and we have close to 2,000 unique experiences and games made by creators that are live on the map, which can be entered and explored at any point of time. So you, as a landowner, as a creator, you can still drive your own audience into your game. You can gamify, you can run your marketing, reward, and so on. But the core purpose of like the season is still like to drive through marketing, through the brands, through the rewards, to onboard new users and to give a bigger push. And as they come quite regularly, like the audience, maybe a mistake we did, or like it used to have like 6 months to a year between every season. Like we celebrated 3 years of season 4 on November 11th. That was like 3 years after the first season. So that was a long wait. And the audience in Web3, and in general anyway in gaming now, like they are not as patient. Like they move to other places and so on. Now with more regular release, I think like season provide the meta gameplay that give a reason for like players to keep exploring, engaging, collect exclusive rewards from their favorite brands, but they can still come on at any point of time. And right after season 4, we had season greetings running during the holidays, and it still had like a great amount of players and higher than before the season. So we're proving that we are building up the audience over time. And it's a model that you've been a long time in the gaming industry, the mobile game industry. It's something that we've seen before. We didn't invent the wheel. Gamers are familiar with it. I think like even non-gamers are familiar with the concept of like peak time of activity and a bit of like time to rest before you jump back into the action.
Okay. So, from your point of view, you think you having sort of you're giving the UGC people sort of the opportunity in between to sort of build their audiences, and even though some of the big brand stuff is being switched off, you sort of think you do have a flywheel starting to sort of happen now. And does that mean that sort of it's very hard to tell sort of when the sandbox goes officially live, because you presumably at some point you just the seasons just last a little bit longer and the gaps between them are a little bit less, and so there's sort of like a very iterative going live process. It's not like a sudden line in the sand like we're going live now.
That's right. Well, we still consider ourselves in alpha, and probably 2025 we'll move to beta, because we consider like the quality of the product, of the creation tool, of the user experience, the 3C, and so on, has drastically improved. The loading time, the performance. We're still very attached on like creating like a smooth, fun, performant player experience where like you move your character, your avatar can do many more action, and you enable then the creators to make their own experience and game leveraging those features. So that for us, it's a point of focus, and I think like it will over time, because those things takes time. If you compare Sandbox 4 years ago or even a year ago and today, like it's night and day, and like I'm sure like as we improve the quality of the experience, the fun, like gameplay, and the gameplay, like it will follow for the audiences, for the creators. Many of the creators on the Sandbox platform, they are first-time creator at the moment. Like we haven't yet reached that point of time. If I compare with the story of like mobile gaming and free-to-play, maybe you remember the App Store in 2010, 11. There was still Temple Run, and then came and Angry Birds as like the hit game, and then it started to come like more games like Candy Crush and the Supercell games and so on, where user acquisition become prevailing. The current creators on Sandbox, few of them, they have a background from making games before. Few of them, they have a background in like marketing, understanding user acquisition, etc. So they are very passionate. They are super talented. We run the awards last months in Los Angeles and Paris, rewarding their creativity. And we're educating them progressively on how to build their own communities, their own audience, as they publish those games on the platform, and they use all the possibilities of NFTs and tokens behind. The season drive a lot of audience that indeed flows into those experiences, and some of those games made by UGC creator now are hundreds of thousands of unique plays. And we hope that this year, as we introduce new builder challenge, new abilities, leaderboards for the creator, etc., and what's coming, one of the big projects, they'll be able to engage even more and start to monetize as well, to build their own sustainable community and audience beyond just the main season that Sandbox is doing. Okay. If you look at Fortnite, it's kind of the same. You have like the UEFN on one side, you have the main Fortnite, and still regular seasons coming in, and it takes time, but some of those creators on the UEFN side are starting to be like generating enough attention, enough audiences to be sustainable on their own outside of the Fortnite.
Okay, yeah, that sort of makes sense. One of the things that was sort of highlighted that you hope to do in 2024, and I don't think did quite happen, was get a mobile release out. And as you sort of mentioned, that your background is in mobile games, and obviously, Roblox is very much a mobile-focused sort of product, which obviously you have aspects of as well. So where are you with mobile?
So there's a few realizations that came as we were working on mobile. First of all, like the technology, the engine that we are building on, which is Unity. Like we've been building with Unity, and we had been working with the Unity team to bring Sandbox to mobile. But you might remember that 2024 has been like a terrible year for the video game industry in general. Like many companies have been hit by layoff, and Unity was one of them. And actually, that also affected our plans with like having a straight port of the Sandbox to mobile. So that delayed our ability to release Sandbox on mobile quite a lot. And along the way, like we also kept running into like different technical challenges of understanding like how much memory a mobile device can actually handle, and what we can actually run on those mobile. And it's not that easy to run those huge world that Sandbox has, all those voxel graphics and effects straight on. Like, it requires a lot of like adaptation, and we felt like that might not be the most straightforward way, besides just like adapting control and so on. So we haven't stopped. We still have something in mind for mobile, but we came up with actually a different strategy, which I think makes much more sense. It's called the Voxel Games Program.
Mm-hmm.
The Voxel Games Program we announced and launched at Gamescom last August. And the idea is like, instead of like trying to bring no-code games made on PC to a mobile platform, why don't we just work with like mobile game studio natively, who are expert, who can use any engine directly, Unity, Unreal, HTML5, and we co-produce games with them. They publish those games, and those games, their only requirement is they have voxel graphic with content made with our editor, Voxel, so there is like a graphic consistency. Yeah. Mm. And even though they will be free to play or with in-app purchase or with ads, they will also enable users to connect their wallet and through that access all their Sand token, their avatars, their land, and all the digital assets. And ultimately, what that means like you can have like mobile games that are like optimized for the platform, that are already proven successful gameplays that like the mobile audience are interested in. It can bring new users to those games, and we're demonstrating a true use case of interoperability. Like the idea of the metaverse, if we look at something I've always said in the past, and I continue to say, is like the metaverse is the possibility for anyone to play with their avatar across many different games and platforms and virtual worlds as seamlessly as possible, like without any technical constraint. And that promise is still far from being achieved for many reasons, technical constraint and so on. Like you can maybe use an avatar across different platforms, but that's merely it as of today. Many companies are working on this. There is like the OMA3, the Open Metaverse Alliance. There is the Metaverse Standard Forum as well that try to establish standards for like file formats, transportation, identity, and so on, reputation as well. But if we were just to build games that utilize your NFTs, your avatar, your land from Sandbox across different platforms, we can already demonstrate that ourselves. And that idea today is more than an idea. Like there's already 2 game studios working on co-production with us, Frag Game and DevHouse, part of the Voxel Games Program. There are many more in the pipeline as we receive hundreds of applications and pitches for that. Mm-hmm. And it really actually extended the vision that we have for Sandbox, that the Sandbox can be much more than this the current platform that it is. It can be a whole gaming ecosystem powered by the Sand token that leverage the 6 million user wallet that we have, the 25,000 landowners, 60,000 unique NFT holders, the Sand token, which is one of the top 100 cryptocurrency according to CoinMarketCap, which is one of the top 5 gaming token. It's one of the few that's listed globally from US to Korea to Japan, which like really can push Sandbox into a bigger gaming platform or gaming ecosystem powered by a Sand token, powered by these NFTs and lands, and to develop many layers of gameplay behind. And that vision, I think, like will have a major step ahead in 2025 as we continue to advance working on like what does it mean to build a whole gaming ecosystem and to empower the creators to access all the 400 major brands that we have, to access all the NFTs, the lands, the avatars. So we're quite excited to work on that, and we'll have more announcement later this year about this.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So sort of the idea at the moment is no sort of mobile sort of client in which you could experience everything on the PC version on mobile, more sort of standalone games that obviously link back into the Sandbox with all the assets that you have there, but it's more like developers will put standalone games through the App Store, and it will be in some Sandbox branded in some way.
Yeah.
But
Think of like the current platform as just one way to onboard first-time creators. People can go create plays with no code, but Sandbox can be a much bigger gaming ecosystem across multiple platforms. Where at the end of the day, in a fully decentralized ecosystem, like you own your asset, you play with your assets across different platforms. Talking about decentralization, the major accomplishment of last year has been the launch of the DAO of Sandbox. We introduced it in last May. So very happy as well that the DAO is live. We had hundreds and hundreds of conversations on the forums. We had 16 SIP, Sandbox Improvement Proposal, that went live, submitted by the community and voted upon. And at the end of the year, we also introduced delegation to actually even increase engagement and participation in voting. And we have 12 active delegates now that are also like collecting the votes from the members or their communities.
Okay, cool. And I guess sort of a sort of minor sort of point on the distribution side. At the moment, you access the Sandbox by downloading sort of the client from the Sandbox PC. At any point, do you sort of think? Obviously, there are other distribution platforms. So I guess sort of Epic. Epic is sort of the biggest one. We're seeing a lot of blockchain games in there. In a sense, it doesn't really, it's a sort of simple download. But do you think something like putting that available, making it available through Epic, widens it up a little bit? Is that something in your sort of roadmap?
I think so. Like, first of all, like last year, we actually improved so much, like the access to Sandbox. Like you download the launcher. What used to take like literally 20 minutes to install Sandbox, download a few gigabytes of data and be able to play, now literally has been crunched to like less than a minute, 30 seconds max. The launcher is there in 5 seconds, and then it downloads automatically the content, and everything happens in the background, bringing a much smoother experience where you jump in straight in. I think like the different stores can provide distribution as well. So we are looking at, we definitely had conversation with the team at Epic. We know that they are much more friendly toward Web3. So it's not impossible that one day you could access the Sandbox through the Epic Store. But now, like again, the big, I wouldn't say a question mark, but like, what does it mean when we say the Sandbox? It doesn't necessarily mean only the current executable that you install now to play the game as they are. I think like the Sandbox will encompass many different apps, many different experiences with native executable across different application stores for distribution.
Okay, so the vision over time has become much less a single monolithic product, and you're thinking much more about it being sort of decentralized.
Absolutely. The technology, we don't want the technology, we very often said like success of the metaverse really depend on three core aspects. One is the product and the technology, the second is the content, and the third is the ecosystem. We don't want to feel tied to only one product or one technology to succeed, but we still have to start somewhere, right? And I think like what we've built, like the quality of it, like the fact that we've been so much focused right from the start on empowering creators and giving them ability to create experience without any code was instrumental to the success that we have today. And from there, we can start exploring new possibilities, new platform, different experiences, co-production of game with existing studios that have experience building on those platforms. And why not, like you can also extend that to why not the Discord, the Telegram network, and all formats of apps that can interact with the assets that the users own.
I mean, this is one of those sort of probably slightly sort of stupid questions of hindsight, but clearly over the length of time you've been running the Sandbox, you have to go through the learnings to sort of get to where you are now. So you couldn't have sort of speeded those things up. But has it become clear over time that sort of the vision you had was actually quite sort of monolithic and quite just from an engineering point of view, extremely hard to do, to build what you're building as a platform, build it on blockchain, which is changing all the time anyway. And so sort of where you end up now with this much more sort of decentralized approach is it's just the learning you've taken through thinking we're going to build in this sort of formal way, and then realizing that doesn't really work for lots of reasons. I mean,
I wouldn't say it doesn't work. Like we've proven that it worked actually, right? But there was different approach. We come from this mobile game background, and it was rather easy to build just one mobile game and rely on the App Store for the distribution. And the App Store was actually this huge hardware smartphone selling machine. I remember every Christmas, like people were opening and like, yeah, a bunch of new iPads and iPhone coming out, and like meaning new players, and every featuring was driving users. You don't really have that yet so much in Web3, or maybe in some way that like Telegram network did provide a form of like strong distribution network. We've seen that network effect in Web3 can be massive. We've seen that with Play to Earn, the rise of Play to Earn in 2021 with Axie Infinity. We've seen that again with Telegram network, etc. But they also, when you build a platform like Sandbox, we realized that we had indeed to build everything, like the marketplace, the creation tools, the map, the launcher, the client, the game maker tools, etc. So it's become a bigger project, obviously, than just building a whole game. But I don't think like we took the wrong path to what we wanted to do. Like our vision has been always to empower the creator. So we started with the creation tools, and meaning like we have user-generated content. We attracted many creators. The quality of the content in UGC, like you might have like 99% of not junk, but like thing like so weird, not going to become experiment. Yeah. But it's exciting, and 1% that one day will become this massive hit game, and it's bound to happen. Like just by the numbers, by the quality of the creation tools improving, by the quality of our distribution and everything. I'm confident that it will come. Others ecosystems, they chose to actually let's build one successful game and try to then leverage the audience of that successful game to drive it to like user-generated content, and so, like Fortnite has done, Axie Infinity gave birth to Ronin. Ronin started to like see many games supported by the Axie Infinity player base and so on, until like it grew on its own new hit title like Pixels, for example, and so on. There's no right or wrong way. It's just like you have to figure out like what makes sense for you, and like maybe Sandbox will have its game at some point. Maybe our path is more focused on like providing the tools, the platform, and every aspect of like all the different layers to empower the creator and let them figure out.
Yeah. Good. Okay. To sort of something that's sort of happening right now is sort of in the game space, which I guess plays into the metaverse. I'm sort of interested, I guess, more in your personal take rather than the sort of the official Sandbox take. I don't think you're announcing anything about AI agents at the moment, but we're sort of really seeing, really over just in the last sort of few weeks. Obviously, that's AI agents have become this big sort of crypto speculative sort of bubble, but obviously there is some interesting sort of tech in there that's been bubbling away with open AI for the last sort of couple of years. And from my, outside view looking in, we can sort of imagine, a metaverse and AI agents will probably, that's something we sort of expected to happen. And
absolutely.
How do you see that? I mean, obviously, I don't think you're announcing anything now around that, and maybe not this year. But how can you see that fitting in future?
So it's really interesting to follow like how the AI industry is maturing, and like what AI can bring to the table for metaverse. Like first of all, at the beginning was like generative AI, like trying to create like 3D models or full experiences generated by AI, and we saw that it can be working quite well for 2D game and certain 3D games with low poly graphic, but in case of Sandbox, due to our voxel aesthetic, like it was not yet. The technology right now, but maybe in 6 months might change, is not yet at the level of quality we expect for giving out to all creators. However, AI has been like doing an amazing job into like content moderation, like making the metaverse more safe, like removing like everything that's like bad language and words into players' interaction. We have seen AI also like capture human body movement at a fraction of the cost of what the hardware was needed before, so we can have like much more emotion in how like those avatars move and express themselves. Can have voice as well now thanks to AI. And the next phase now with AI agents is like characters in games start to grow their own intelligence and develop different strategies, both as they were real players trying to collect resources, fight against other players or agents and so on, or like provide to the players quests that are not just like repeated quests but really unique and differentiated each time. That's, I think, like one of the most interesting area that we should look at, like how like this feeling of life and immersion will come up. Still, a few questions comes up, like what's the cost of like operating all those agents versus like the overall business model of those different platforms. What's the added value from a player experience at the end of the day? If everybody has like a different game experience, like who is actually experimenting the game, the actual game, like what's the job of narrative designer, level designer, and so on in that. And so we've seen experiment with Minecraft where like hundreds of agents are like competing with each other for collecting and crafting resource. We're looking at what can be done on Sandbox as well. In general, that can be interesting. Right now, like this virtues like this AI agent protocol that allows you to launch bots and agents for Twitter, for YouTube, and so on. Let's see what can be if like gaming can be an interesting interface for users to interact with those agents as well, or like the format that comes from this type of interaction needs to be simplified in a way, and that's why we're seeing it's so easy, so accessible, and so successful yet.
No, it's certainly fascinating, and I guess there's slightly one of the issues for guys like you is you've got a very, as we've been discussing, you've over the last few years honed your vision for where you sort of want to go, and maybe AI fits into it. But then you say sort of maybe AI doesn't fit into it, and so you have this sort of, I think, lots of projects, not just games projects, are sort of thinking how does AI fit into it, and for some of them it maybe fits in really well. For some of it seems like for metaverse it could fit in, but as you say, technically there may be something that around voxels that just doesn't work as well for other things. So I guess that's sort of the fascinating sort of experimentation we're in at the moment.
Exactly, and we saw like a lot of AAA game studio as well trying to incorporate AI for generating new maps, new level. Like I saw the live demo from EA.
Yeah.
And frankly speaking, I was underwhelmed because you watch it. Maybe it's just a wow effect for 1 minute or two. Okay, well, it's generated, but is it really a very interesting map from a player perspective? Are you going to have so much fun if you compare it with something that a team of level designer, level artist, game designer would have worked for a long time to really design the architecture, the point of where the players are going to meet or escape and so on, and it's way too simple at the moment. So it doesn't mean it will not evolve. Like I'm always excited about like what technology can enable, but right now I think like giving that in the end of creator will result in a lot of basic map that might be very boring to play after 1 minute, and we don't want that. Like we want to populate the metaverse with actual interesting stuff. So right now our approach is to actually provide templates that are easy to reskin, easy to drop from your asset library, which will introduce a new dynamic library in a new game maker, a few assets, and customize. Think of it more like a Lego kit that anyone can start with basic building blocks, but then like make it easy to customize, so every experience is still different.
Going a little bit off the deep end and nothing to do with the sandbox, I think the weirdest thing is what happens when AI agents are making maps that AI agents are playing and human beings never play them, and just the AI agents are in there playing, and somehow they have their own tokens and start making money, and so the whole thing spirals out of control, and it's just the AI agents are doing their thing and humans never interact with them, but somehow it sort of works out. But we'll leave that discussion for another time.
Yeah, it's happening right now. Like that's quite exciting. Like we should follow that. We're definitely so like they're processing a lot of information, they are giving signals, some of them are taking decision on their own. I guess like it's going to be interesting to witness, and also witness like how some agent will actually start to spread wrong information or counterintelligence in a way, like to challenge each other.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Cool. Okay, we'll stop it there before we spiral out of control. Thank you very much, Sebastian, for your time. And is there anything that you're sort of formally going to be announcing that we should sort of be aware of, or should we just be looking at sort of keeping abreast of the Sandbox Twitter for stuff that will be happening in the next month?
So yeah, we'll be publishing year in review and what's coming for 2025 in the next hour. So I'm sure it will be live when the podcast airs. We lot to come in Q1 in terms of announcements. So we'll definitely keep you posted. And I want to make sure that 2025 will be like kicking off a new decade for like the vision we have, and empowering people to build, to deploy application, to launch even more things with as little technical knowledge as they want, as they need, to do what they want.
Cool, good. That's a good vision for the next year. Lovely. Thank you very much, Sebastian, and thank you to you guys for watching, listening, however you are consuming the podcast. Remember, every episode we are talking to the people who are building out this whole new way of making games and interacting with games, and maybe interacting with AI agents in games. We will see. So don't miss out. Do subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.